Welcome to the RHD ITB assembly video for the S50 M50 motor. RHD has provided us with a detailed set of instructions that we are going to go through one by one as we assemble this kit. As you can see, we have everything that comes in the kit laid out here on the table. We have our carbon fiber air plenum, our runners, our aluminum plate for the carbon fiber air box, all our throttle bodies, our hardware, our throttle, our stacks, and our trumpets. So we have everything laid out. We've gone through. RHD gives you a layout of every single item that that comes in the kit. We've laid it all out. We've made sure that we have everything, and we do. So we are now ready to start assembling. Our first step, as per the instructions, we are going to start putting the items on the throttle bodies so that we can get the throttle bodies all set up and ready to go. So let's jump to step one. So step one, we are going to put our first little piece here on the shaft for the throttle body. We have a little spring. This is the only spring in the kit. And our spring here will sit right on this stud. As you see, we place it in there. Then this, as per the instructions, will be parallel to the throttle body. So to do that, we have to move that on that side of the shaft. We will slide this on here, and we will rotate it forward as we do so. And this piece here will slide over the front of this, and that gives us our tension for the throttle body. When you're done, it'll look like this. We don't have it tightened down yet, so what we're going to do is we'll let that sit like that. We'll close the throttle body. We will then in turn take our Allen head here, and we will tighten down this front bolt here that we have on the front, which will clamp onto the shaft. As we tighten this down, this will secure our first throttle onto the throttle plates on this set of throttles. So here you'll see you'll have a threaded nut and a shaft. That is your throttle adjustment. We'll do all these adjustments when we get to the install video in the car. This is what you adjust to adjust your throttle and adjust your idle. So next step, we're going to be moving to the other side of the throttle plate here, and we'll have another one of these little brackets. It too will slide onto the shaft, and we're going to give it a little bit of space from the throttle plate. It too will sit parallel to the throttle when it's closed. We'll cinch this one down as well, and as you can see, when this moves, that moves, and that will now connect onto this, onto these, as we work our way down through steps 2 through 3. So for your end throttle plate, we have another little throttle bracket. We're going to slide that on as well. This, as you see, this little L is what's going to attach to your next throttle. That needs to be parallel to the throttle when it's closed. So as you can see, we'll line that up. We will tighten this down as well with the Allen head. Tighten that up, and we'll set that one back down. We'll take this last throttle body here, as you can see, and we have another one of these as well. All of your set screws will face forward on these throttle bodies. So it makes it an easy reference point for everything here. We're going to make sure this slides on this shaft. And we will, again, make it parallel to the throttle body. And we'll tighten this down. And we'll have all the throttle bodies ready for step number 4. Now that we have all 3 throttle bodies set up and ready to go, we are going to move on to step number 4, which is getting the actual throttle, where the throttle cable comes over, connected to the middle set of throttle bodies. So your throttle cable is going to sit on the top of this throttle body here in the middle. And it's going to sit just like that. And it's going to hook up. Actually, it sits like that. Sorry, backwards. Here. So what we have here is we have our throttle arm. And we have 2 bolts. This is going to get kind of tricky here. And if you guys can see, since this is held together once you bolt it to the manifold, this here attaches, and this is your main throttle linkage. So we need to first put in a bolt and the throttle linkage on the bottom. And we're going to hand tighten this stuff right now till we can get everything together. Then we'll cinch it all down. Then you come up top and you attach the top. We're going to hand tighten that one as well. As you can see, that now has twisted this off of parallel to the throttle body. You have adjustments here in the middle that we can spin out and spin in to flatten that out. We'll do that once we start bolting this down here, then we can adjust these. But as you can see, when you pull the throttle, it opens the throttle blades and everything works. So we'll set this aside and we'll move on to step number 4. So step number 4 is going to be starting to put the throttles on the RHD manifolds. So we're going to clean off our workspace, flip everything around, and we'll get to starting to put the bolts in. So we're going to start one at a time, and we are going to put our first set of throttle bodies onto our manifold, and we're going to use the provided large hardware, and we are going to start by threading all 4 in before we start tightening down. And we are going to get all 4 of these in, and we're going to work our way down, all the way down on each manifold, get each 2 throttle bodies on the manifold, get them tightened down, and then we'll move on to the next step. One thing to mention on this, as you're putting these throttle bodies on, we have the first one on. The way we had them assembled here, and the way that the instructions had them laid out with the throttle cable on the middle runner and the throttle with nothing on the end is at the very end on the left. This throttle that has your TPS sensor goes on the far end, which if you're looking at this, the way it goes in the car would be closest to the back of the motor toward the cabin of the car. And one way to keep everything straight is each throttle is etched with RHD in the middle here, all the way down. If you can see, it's etched with RHD. There's nothing on the bottom. So as you're laying these out, RHD is always going to go up. So you have nothing on this end, and it works its way down so you keep yourself in order. I've gone here. Now I'm going to this end, the far end, and putting this throttle body on. And then I'll come back and I'll do the middle. And then we will work to put them together and move on to the next step. But let's get these on real quick with the provided hardware, and we'll move on to the next step. So now that we have the middle throttle body together, you can actually see how this mechanism works. Your throttle will come up and over, clip into here, so as you pull the throttle, pulls the linkage, pulls the actual throttles open. And you can see that now that everything's bolted together and tightened down. We're going to set that back in the middle, and as you can see, that's how they come together. Our next step is attaching each one of these blades that we have to each other, boom, 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 and connecting all the throttles together in one. So we'll have all these little flappers will go, they actually sit right behind, I'm not sure if you can see. Bring you guys in closer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So we have our flapper here from throttle body on this side. We have our acceptor there that allows this to slide right in there, and we'll make sure everything's lined up there, hooked up, and then we're going to tighten this down against that throttle body. That now links the middle throttle body to this outside throttle body here. As you can see, we're going to jump to the next one and do the same exact thing. So we're going to do the same on this side as we did it on the other. We're going to slide this together, and we are going to put this piece in between right there. Line up your back portion, make sure everything's good, and we're going to tighten down this bolt. So now, with the actuator of the front, the middle throttle body, all throttle bodies work together there. We do have some catching. I feel some slight resistance there. I need to check, make sure we're not grinding on any throttles, which we are over here. We'll loosen this and move this a little bit over, and then that'll clear up that. But they need to move freely. They don't need to catch like that. You see there's a slight catch. We'll loosen this over here, and we'll move it over, and we'll get it adjusted and get them moving smoothly. So now that we're at this point, we have our throttles. You see they move very smoothly and very evenly all the way across. This is not officially like one unit yet. We're gonna get there, but we're not there yet. So our next step are our spacers here. So we have these 50 mil spacers. They're going to sit on each runner, and we're going to tighten those down and get all 6 installed. Then we can install our plate and go to the next step. You're going to use the longer hardware to attach the spacers, or I don't know what they're called. I don't know if they're called spacers or just milled trumpets, but they are going to go on next, and we are going to tighten them down all one at a time for all 6, and then our next will be the plate gets attached and sandwiched in between these and this. So now that we have all the 50 mil spacers on, and we have these together, we can start putting the trumpets and the plate. This plate is what holds everything together, and then what the carbon airbox actually bolts to. Now, I'm running the carbon airbox and a MAF filter on my S50. If you were to run standalone or a MAP sensor instead of a MAF sensor, you can either run just the trumpets onto the end and skip the airbox. If you're doing it that way, you can even take the spacers off and mount the trumpets right to the throttle bodies. So you have multiple different ways if you're running this with a standalone. I'm running a chip tune, so I'm going to do the full install at this point. So we're going to mount the plate to our first set of throttle bodies, and we're going to mount the trumpets on this side, mount it like that, and then this is going to make this one solid piece. So let's get to it. So what you're going to want to do to start this is we're going to get the bolt here, feed it through, and it's going to thread into the trumpet, as the trumpet is threaded and the 50mm spacer is not. I found an easy way is to tilt this up with the throttle bodies and then just hand start each bolt, and then we'll work our way down, and we will, as we're doing that, we'll get everything hand tight, and then we'll come back and we'll tighten it all together in one round. What you see is a completed manifold. Now that we have all the trumpets mounted to the plate, which are mounted to the 50mm spacers, which are mounted to the throttle bodies, which in turn is mounted to the RHD manifold. As you can see, nice, complete, all-together kit. As you see, when you pull the throttle, all the throttle blades work in conjunction with each other. They all go to full throttle, and we have some adjustments to do here and there, but we'll do that once we move to installation. We'll get all of this bolted down and adjusted, but till then, this is done. So now that you have the trumpets attached, our next step is to attach the carbon fiber airbox to the plate. So you'll position the airbox with the lowest point and the smallest chamber size toward the very last throttle body, which will be cylinder number 6, and that is where you'll start. And we'll install the screws. Once you place the first one, you can place one at the front, and then you can place one at the back, and you can in turn have a good reference point, and then you'll slowly thread all of these in, and then we'll tighten them down one by one once we have them all started. So your final step before install is threading these 8mm hose barbs into the bottom of each runner. You have a center one that's a little bit larger that is for your vacuum port to your ICV vacuum distribution block that comes in the kit. We will address that once you get to the assembly video. We'll walk you through all those hoses and where everything connects. Thanks for watching the RHD assembly video. Next video is your RHD ITB install.